Across the 1,000 kilometers coast of Pakistan, from Iran to India, sprawls the indispensable mangrove forest. It serves as a transit terminal between land and ocean, marine and terrestrial animals, breathing life into our coasts. In 1020 AD, the great Persian polymath Ibn Sina wrote a book on botany that changed science forever. The coasts of Pakistan are covered with a mangrove species named after the father of modern medicine, the Avicennia marina. The Avicennia is the most prolific and common species of mangrove found in Pakistan, growing to great heights and creating a dense forest cover. These trees flourish in intertidal zones where sweet and brackish water meet. Drawing life in conditions of extreme salinity and in muddy banks which choke the forest floor of oxygen. How then does this plant survive? The mangrove has, as is nature's behest, adapted itself. Some mangrove species have adapted to excrete excess and toxic salt from their leaves, which is then removed by wind or rain, while others store the salt in old leaves, which then fall off. Perched at the edge of civilization, the mangrove leaves no room for error when it comes to propagation. The Avicennia marina's round seeds provide an impenetrable home for the new plant, splitting open to reveal the baby sapling when she is ready to emerge. The less common to Pakistan varieties are locally known as chunar and kumbri. Their seeds germinate while still attached to the plant, growing long and tube-shaped. When ready, the seed drops and finds anchor in the mud with the help of its sharp tip. Sprouting roots as soon as it lands. Once it has a foothold, the seed holds fast, unbending and steadfast, as the tide consumes it. The mangrove, if left to its own devices, dominates. The Avicennia marina has a distinctive aerial root system. These new metaphors grow upwards like fingers from the mud, escaping the clutch of the mud bank. The chunar's pot-shaped roots skirt out like stilts to anchor the rhizophora tree securely. In ferocious sea water as well as the softest mud. The mangrove not only survives, it stabilizes its habitat too. Banks without mangroves are threatened by land erosion and intrusion of seawater, endangering communities and ecosystems. The mangrove's dense root system traps sediments and in fact moves the mudflats and delta seawards, preserving our coasts from degradation year-round. During the monsoons, the coast sees waves reaching 3.5 meters in height. The mangrove forest is all that stands in its way, holding the precarious banks tight in its grip, preventing floods and protecting villages.
पहले हमारा अब्बू दादा वो बोलता था पहले तो बाहर से समुद्र में तूफान आया था उधर बिल्कुल आदमी कोई चंद बता इधर था और सब दरिया में डूब गया अभी तो ये मैंग्रोव नहीं था इस वजह से दरिया खाली था पहले तो दौर में मीठा पानी था अभी मीठा पानी नहीं है खारा पानी है इस वजह से ज़मीन नीचे गई बाद में ये मैंग्रोव्स लगाया मैंग्रोव्स लगा के उसके रोक दिया इसके 10 साल हो गया इस वजह से ये नाली है इसमें लगाया है तूफान आ जाएगा तो किश्ती भर के बच्चा उठ के भर के इधर लाते हैं मैंग्रोव्स है इस वजह से ऊंचा है उसमें किश्ती आ जाएगी छोटा छोटा नाली है उसमें लगा के बाद में पन्ना होता है
The forest floor itself is a dense ecosystem which provides food for the local communities and hosts many species. Crabs in great numbers live in the dense mud, camouflaged in the branches of the mangrove trees, or in its muddy banks. Crabs and mollusks find shade and shelter, while barnacles thrive by using the mangrove plant as anchor. Crabs make food of the bark of the mangrove tree, using their pincers to scrape the nutritious top layer. As the crabs feed, they add nutrients to the mud for bottom feeders, including mollusks and baby shrimp. The shrimp are later harvested by local fishermen to feed their families and to sell in bulk on the bays. Bottom feeders also provide food for another organism, as unique as the mangrove itself, the mudskipper. On the mudflats, rows upon rows of mudskippers can be seen basking in the sun. They are a strange and unique fish. They live partly on land, using their fins to walk on the mudbanks and slipping into burrows in the mud for safety and to lay eggs. Their protruding eyes move independently off each other, allowing them to see below water surface and above. Their pelvic fins are like suckers, These allow them to climb trees and rocks. Male mudskippers jump high in the air and expose their dorsal fins before they return into the water to impress females. Mudskippers are a communal creature, always to be found frolicking with its kind. But they are also skittish, skipping off like a lightning bolt at the slightest sign of threat. The mangrove forest is home to one of the most diverse and critical breeding ground of our oceans. Most tropical marine life species spend the early part of their life cycle within the dark, muddy roots of the mangroves. Making the forest a priceless and irreplaceable gene bank of aquatic life. If the mangrove nursery were to disappear, it would affect the entire marine ecosystem, including the longfin bannerfish, the violet demoiselle, and endangering even the precious coral reef. The richness provided by the mangrove to our waters means that our oceans also host a diverse population of dolphins. In 2010, the fishermen of Gadani Bay were shocked to find 250 dolphins trapped on our shores.
वहाँ क्या ये था कि हमारे साहिल पे बड़ी तादाद में डॉल्फिन आए थे, तकरीबन 250 से ज़्यादा हुए तो कम नहीं। इतनी बड़ी तादाद में ज़िंदगी में कोई साहिल पे भी इतनी तादाद में कोई डॉल्फिन आज तक भी नहीं आया जो हमारे साहिल पे आए थे, मगर सारे फंसे हुए थे। हमारे मुकामी माहीगीर जो गड्डानी की, उन लोगों ने हिम्मत किया, कोशिश किया उनको निकालने में। मैं भी वहीं मौजूद थी उनके साथ। किसी ने रस्सी लाया, किसी ने कश्ती को लाया, किसी को आवाज़ दिया। इतने वज़नदार, इतने बड़े बड़े वज़नदार डॉल्फिन थे, तो रस्सी बांधे थे, उसके जो दुम होता है ना पीछे, उधर रस्सी बांधा था, तो कश्ती को हमारे माहीगीरों ने स्टार्ट किया तो पीछे खींचा, तो इसी तरह वो निकल रहे। वैसे इंसान के बस की बात नहीं तो उसको ऐसा करके हाथ से निकाल ले। तो जो हमारे बड़े बुजुर्ग कहते थे ना, जो एक होता है जो बिछड़ता है वो आवाज़ निकालता है, जैसे हमारे इंसानों के बच्चे अपने माँ बाप से बिछड़ते हैं, अम्मी अम्मी ऐसा रोने लगता है। एक साथी बिछड़ा तो उनको ढूंढने के लिए ये सारे उसको ढूंढने के लिए मेरे ख्याल में ऐसा होंगे ये वाक़यात।
In the winter time, the mangroves of Pakistan are host to many bird species who migrate here from the north, some even from Siberia, to escape the harsh winter. Birds of prey are usually to be found on high perch, looking wisely out at the landscape. while others can be spotted in the midst of the jungle or on the mud banks. Life in the mangroves moves slowly. These birds spend most of their day on the hunt, still as death when they catch sight of prey, then moving closer for the kill. The ring plover waits for low tide and feeds by running along the shoreline, snapping up small invertebrates for food. The migratory Eurasian curlew's long bill helps it find food deep inside the mud. When the tide rises and the mud banks are submerged, most birds leave for their homes in the mangrove trees. And it's the seagulls alone that feast all day. These birds clean up the ecosystem of the mangrove by feeding on excess animals, algae, and other plankton. If the birds were to leave these forests, the ground cover would become overrun with algae, and the mangroves would suffocate. In Balochistan, the Somiani Bay even has a resident population of flamingos. These birds are always seen in flocks, traversing the mudflats all day. Their curved beaks sieve water to collect tiny pieces of food. Baby flamingos are grey. A healthy diet and the process of aging causes them to become their famous pink as adults. The flamingos are constantly under threat from human hunters, but their animal predators include only a few odd jackals who roam the mangrove at night. But the flamingos are high on the mangrove tops by then. Like the wildlife, most local fishing communities are also completely dependent on the forest. The mangrove tree provides food for livestock, and dried plants make firewood for fuel. Many even graze their cattle and camels here. But with climate change looming, how long will these people survive with their way of life? Populations around coastal areas are booming. Unregulated, they are now threatening the mangrove forest. In Karachi, at Ibrahim Haidari, sewage and agricultural and industrial runoff exits into the ocean through the mangroves habitat. Eventually, algae begins to grow on the ground cover, suffocating the root system and endangering the forest. Approximately 220,000 people live in and around the mangrove forests of Pakistan, mostly around the Indus Delta, which is one of the largest arid land mangroves in the world. Their livelihoods are tied closely to the mangrove forest. Pakistan is lucky to still have a large area of land available for mangrove restoration. Efforts of the last decade, led by environmental champions like Tahir Qureshi, have allowed Pakistan to climb from 9th to 7th position in the world's mangrove population. Planted area has increased from 86,000 to 107,000 hectares, and sapling sites are being carefully monitored and mapped. Unregulated and illegal fishing is depleting fish at an alarming rate, and one of the primary culprits in weakening the ecosystem of the forests. But local communities are being educated against using illegal and harmful fishing methods that leave the waters infertile. In Keti Bandar, crab ponds help families host baby crabs in a secure environment, where they can be fattened and sold for high prices in the city markets. This allows a sustainable income for local folk and discourages mass crabbing. Introduction of charcoal making from alternate wood sources means the mangrove will not be overforested. Sandspit, close to bustling Karachi, has now been declared a protected area. Sandspit is known amongst locals as the spot where a certain magical animal visits during the winter. In the darkest nights, female sea turtles come to shore and painstakingly dig a nest in the sand, exerting their strong limbs for hours to make a safe place to lay their eggs. Without the mangrove ecosystem, hastening climate change would threaten these nesting beaches too. Both rich and poor need the mangrove for their livelihoods. It is estimated that each hectare of mangrove results in $9,000 of income. It is essential that these exploits become sustainable. if we build our communities and economies in congruence with our environment. The mangroves and our coasts can be made more resilient than ever before, allowing nature to thrive.